G'day everyone. Today this video is going to talk specifically about making extrusions and doing extrusions from multiple sketches. Because as we can see, I'm looking at the practice parts A sheet here. Different shapes here have different types of extrusions and different sketches on them. For example, this saddle bracket here is a simple one sketch extrusion. You sketch a side and then you extrude it out. The drilling jig and the guide bracket are both two sketch extrusion type items. So you've got one, in the case of the drilling jig here, you've got one sketch for that end there, which is being extruded, and then another sketch for that little notch. Same with something like the guide bracket there for the little hole in it. And just on practice parts B here, we're also going to look at this bushing shackle. So to start with, we'll have a quick look at that saddle bracket. Now I'll just jump into Inventor. And you can see here in Inventor that I've drawn the sketch for the side of it using just the dimensions that were on the drawing there that I showed you and some constraints as well. Now when we get to this point, we're going to start using that Extrude tool. So I'm going to select the Extrude tool, and it's automatically selected the area to extrude. Now depending on how complex your sketch is, it may or may not do that. And we're just going to check how far we need to extrude that. So a quick look at practice parts there. So 38mm is the thickness of this one. Let's go back to Inventor. Oops, there we go. Alright, now looking at the extrude panel up here, we can extrude different things. So we can extrude from a profile, which is what we're doing here, or we can extrude from a solid, which is something we won't do at all. As far as how to do that, when it comes to how the extrusion actually works, we can do it via a distance, we can do it to a certain point, or we can do it between two faces, or two different lines perhaps. We select a distance that we want to extrude, and in this case that's 38 for us. And then we can decide on which direction. So at the moment it's on direction 1, we can go the opposite direction there, direction 2. We can go symmetric around that sketch, or we can go asymmetric and we can pick how far in each distance we want it to extrude. And now we're just going to select direction 1, and we're going to make a solid output. So we can make a solid or just a surface output. We're going to make a solid, and it's going to create a new solid. That's what this button here tells us. When we're all happy with that, we can click OK. And just quickly, we can get all of those right here on the tool as well. So we've got all these drop downs that will help us change those things also. So when we're all done, we click OK, and there we go. There's our new solid that we've made from our extrusion. Now let's have a look at the guide bracket one. Now you can see I've drawn one of the sketches for the guide bracket, which again, looking at practice parts A, is this one here. So I've got two extrusions I've got to do. I've got this extrusion which gives me the general shape, and then I've got a hole in it here. Now this first extrusion is only 60mm, so I'll go ahead and I'll do that. So there's my sketch there. I'll hit the Extrude tool again, and there you go. I'm already set to 60mm. So that's going to make a square up the top here, and we've got that area where the hole will be down here. Again, I'm just creating it in one direction, making a new solid to a specific distance, and I'll hit OK. And there we go. That sketch is now complete, or that object is now complete, apart from the hole that needs to be in it. So let's go back to practice parts A there. So we can see on there, we have a hole which is 24mm by 16mm. It looks quite central in that area, so I won't need to make it off to one side or anything. And the back of the hole here is 38mm from that line there. So let's go ahead and we'll make a sketch and we'll do that extrusion. Now, when it comes to doing extrusion like this, what we're going to do is we're going to start a new sketch, a 2D sketch on that face. And you can see that part of that object has now gotten in the way a bit. If that is the case when we're doing things, we can actually change our view to be shaded with hidden lines, which actually gives us that area of that face, which is where our sketch is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll start making that sketch there. So we saw on there that it looked like something sort of rectangle, so I'll just go and draw a general rectangle in here. Doesn't matter really where it goes. I'm going to adjust all that in a minute. Let's have another look at the drawing, and it's 24 by 16mm. So 24 this way, 16 this way. Let's go back there and add some dimensions to it. So 16 here, and 24 here. And the last measurement from there was how far this line was from this line, and in our case that was 38 millimeters. So we'll go and add that in. Now things aren't exactly right yet, because if I just click out of the dimension tool there by right clicking, if I shift this, I can actually shift that square around. So let's go back to our drawing there. We'll just double check our dimensions so far. So 38 millimeters up, 2416, that's fine. But as we can see here, it is central, so I do need to make that central in there. Now there's a couple of ways I can go about doing that. I can use constraints perhaps, and make a certain distance on each side, equal, or I can go ahead and figure out what the distance would be. So I know this is 60 millimeters wide, and this is 16. So if I take my 16 from my 60, I will get 60 take 10 is 50, take another 6 is 44. So I need to divide that by 2, and that'll give me the distance in from each edge, which happens to be 22. So I'll type that in, and there we go, that's now central in that area. And it is fully constrained as well, as you can see. So I've finished that sketch, we'll hit the Finish Sketch button. And you can see that's the area that I'm about to do another extrusion on. So I'm going to use the Extrude tool this time. I'm going to select that area. And rather than extruding it upwards, what I'll do is I'll go to 2. And I'm going to make it go to this bottom face. You can see there it then creates that extrusion hole there. Again, it's making, instead of an extrusion, which is this button here, it's making a cut. And it's going to cut out into that area. And we'll cut away. And we'll click OK. And that's gone and cut that through for us. So we can just swivel around a little bit, and we'll be able to see that goes all the way through like that. So there we go, that's the first multi-sketch extrusion there. As you see, so I've got 2 extrusions over here in my browser. Alright, very last one is the bushing shackle. Now, as you can see, I've drawn one of the sketches for it. And I've drawn the basic shape of this area. Okay, and I've got my hole in it, I've got my slot there with the rounded end. So what I'll need to do now is extrude that one. So let's just pop back to that drawing just briefly and check how far. So looking at this, it is 44 millimeters high between the bottom and the top there. So going back to that, we'll extrude that area by 44 millimeters. So typing that into the dialog box there and clicking OK. Now there's a few more things I do need to do to this. I've got probably a couple of sketches that I'll need to use to do some more extrusions, or cuts as the case may be. Just go back to the right page there. So looking at this, I've got a couple of holes here that are at specific distances that go all the way through. I've also got some chamfers on this end. So we'll probably do that as 2 different sketches. We'll start with these 2 holes. So we've got one hole that's 20 millimeters in diameter, the other that is 8. They're 32 millimeters apart and 20 millimeters in from the end. So let's go ahead and make those. So start 2D sketch, I'm going to do on this face here. And I'll start by adding those 2 circles in, just randomly, it doesn't have to be perfect yet, just 2 different holes. Okay, and now we'll start adding some dimensions. So as I said, the first one was 20 millimeters in diameter, second one was 8 millimeters in diameter, they were 32 millimeters apart, like that, and 20 millimeters from the end there. And the very last thing I need to do, it looks as though, if we go back to that drawing real quickly, that they are central on that side, so I do need to make them central top to bottom, and being 44, they'll be 22 millimeters in from the bottom or the top. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So add that dimension in there, sorry, there we go, 22 millimeters, and you can see it's only moved one of them. To fix that up, to make the other one in line, I could use something like coincidence or the parallel constraint. I think in this case I will use the parallel constraint between these 2. There we go, and now they're both on the same line. So that's my first sketch there, to draw those holes. So I'll hit Finish Sketch, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll use the Extrude tool to do that cut again. So I've just selected the cut button there. I'm going to select the 2 holes, like that. And we're going to say instead of distance, we'll go 2, and again we'll select that outer face there, and that way it's going to go all the way through all of that. And we'll select OK, and there we go, we've got our 2 holes there that go all the way through both sides. So all that's left to do on this one is, oops, starts B, there we go, is these 2 chamfers here. Now it says just below the drawing here, all chamfers are 10mm at 45 degrees, so that would tell me that I need a 10mm chamfer there. Now, there's a couple of different ways I can do this. I can draw a sketch on the side here that gives me a 10mm chamfer at 45 degrees, or I can go ahead and I can use the chamfer tool. So what I'll do is use the chamfer tool on one side, and I'll show you the other method as well. So selecting the chamfer tool, just pop a little bit down here, and we're going to give it its dimension of 10mm. And you can see here that we can change, the distance or the angle as well. So now I've selected that, I can select 2 faces like that, or 2 vertices, sorry, edges, and I'll go and put a chamfer on them. When I'm done, I can hit the tick, and there we go, that's one. The other method is using a 2D sketch. So if I click on this outside face here, I can go and add those chamfers in using a sketch. So this time I'm going to use my line tool. I'm just going to make a triangle on this corner, and haven't given it any specific dimensions yet. I can do that in a minute. And well, that's only 2 of the lines, we'll do one more between them, like that. And we'll do the same thing down the bottom here. So selecting the line tool again from the create palette there. Going up a certain distance, nothing in particular yet. Going across, and then back to there. So there we go, we've got 2 triangles. Now they're not dimensioned properly yet, we'll just add those dimensions in. So I'll make this, oops, it's going to give me the whole dimension there. Let's try that again. What is it, the line I just put on? Just struggling to get. No, doesn't want to. Not winning here. Okay, so clearly we need to dimension our lines as we do them. We'll just undo those lines there. No lines on there now. Let's try that again. So we'll come in and we'll make a line that is 10mm long this way. And we can then make the next line using the angle tool here. So you can see it automatically snaps to 45 degrees. And then we'll do the one back to there. So that's one corner. Go to the other corner now. Again, making a line which is 10mm long this way, using that snap to 45 degrees, and then my last line there. So there we go, I've drawn those 2 little parts on the side there to do my chamfers. I'll just hit finish sketch, and then we'll show you the extrusion, or the cut in this case. So again, selecting the cut tool, selecting the 2 faces there, and of course I'm not going to go that far, I don't need to. I can calculate the distance there, or again I can go for something like 2, or even 2 next. And 2 next will just go to the next surface it finds. I'll hit tick there, and there we go. Again, that chamfer's been removed. So let's have a quick rotate around the object there. You can see that it's exactly the same as the one in that drawing, with those holes and the chamfer. Alright, so there we go. Thanks for watching the video. I hope that gives you a bit more information about the